In today's news, a huge influx of volume just hit XRP, over $15 million in just 1 minute. What's going on here, to me, seems painfully obvious to see, and that is institutional adoption. Institutional FOMO is taking over. The market is maturing from that of a crypto casino to that of a financial empire, with XRP being at the center, which is why numerous Wall Street institutions and many other massive banks have now filed for a strategic XRP Treasury, a strategic XRP Reserve. In my opinion, not financial advice, of course. You need more XRP. Hell, I need more XRP. There's about to be a ridiculous supply shock with all of these financial institutions scooping up XRP to form their treasury. This means XRP is going to become more scarce, with the demand only increasing, especially as Ripple is like the plumbing for the new monetary era, and XRP is the gas fee for all that is going to come. Institutional FOMO is well and truly here, and if you don't want to miss out on the incoming opportunities, then come learn more here in the VIP, wop.com/coinfactory. From alpha institutional research documents, learning what smart money is saying to their clients, allowing us to get ahead of the retail market, educational courses, trade alerts, and so much more. Check it all out. 7 days free, link down below in the description, and I hope to see you there, because there's so much more incoming. For example, we recently received news, huge news, that Trident Digital Tech Holdings announced a $500 million plan to establish an XRP Treasury Reserve. This initiative involves acquiring XRP tokens for a long-term strategic reserve, implementing staking mechanisms for yield generation, and engaging with Ripple's ecosystem. This makes it the world's largest XRP reserve plan to date. But they are not the only ones. As we can see here from Edward, we have Wobers International, Vivo Power, Wellgistic, Hyperscale, Worksport, BC Bud, as well as a Digital Com. Collectively, all of this here amounts to almost $1 billion worth of capital, $1 billion worth of TradFi money aiming to buy up XRP to form their own strategic reserves. So with XRP currently valued at around $2.31, let's just say $2.50 for argument's sake, right? For example's sake, this would mean roughly 400 million XRP would need to be swept out of the markets to form all of these reserves. With XRP having roughly or just a little bit over 58 billion tokens currently circulating, truth be told, doesn't seem like a lot, not enough to cause a supply shock at least, but recognize the pattern here. That is what's really important. While only $1 billion, while only 400 million XRP tokens, when there's billions out there, we are seeing collectively, repeatedly, accelerated behavior. More and more massive institutions are coming forward with the aim to create and establish an XRP reserve to scoop up more XRP for long-term holdings, effectively using XRP as a store of value, taking the tokens off the market. We had the largest plan to date of $500 million, and we are still in the extremely early stage of adoption. So just imagine what will happen, or very likely happen. In my belief, it will happen. The possibility when you see the likes of Fidelity, Franklin Templeton, Bank of America, Ripple's partner, Blackrock, when these major players decide to adopt similar strategies to create their own XRP reserve. Just how much more institutional FOMO is there going to be for XRP, and how much is it going to accelerate from here? Not just for the number of institutions, but the planned size of capital they plan to invest to create a reserve. Maybe the next one's going to be $1 billion, maybe maybe a $1 trillion XRP reserve in the future. Not to mention that these institutions here as well, they could always increase the amount they plan to spend for a reserve. They could increase it to $1 billion here for Trident. It's possible. So could we see, as a result of this, a 10x in XRP this cycle, if not more? Time will tell, of course. But we are gradually seeing more and more XRP. The demand for it increasing, more is going to be taken off the market, meaning less available for us to scoop up and for us to buy, while the demand of the asset only continues to rise. With that in mind, take a close listen here to this interview from the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas, where Ms. George talks about plumbing regarding blockchain technology, which is very insightful, and I'll explain why in a moment, so listen very closely here.
difference will this service make? They point to the fact that they have an app on their phone that enables them to pay friends today, anytime. So what context could you provide to us about the difference?
I often hear that. We've become used to saying we can do so many things on our phone, and clearly you now can move money through various services on your phone. And I expect that is going to continue, and it could well proliferate. The things we're talking about today really represent the infrastructure, as Governor Brainerd said in her remarks. This is really the plumbing of the payment system. And so when people are moving money, it may feel like you and I are trading money instantaneously, but the fact is it has to go through the plumbing in a way that may take much longer for those things to actually come out of my account and get into your account. By updating our infrastructure with this kind of a service, we can now realize the full functionality of what real-time payments means. And I think going forward, we'll only encourage more innovation. It'll be built on a foundation that is much more modern than we have today.
I always love when we refer to this payment system as the plumbing, because I never imagined I'd be called a plumber.
Now, I highlight this interview because this is the exact terminology, the exact talking points, the exact words Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse has used in numerous interviews, especially the most recent one where they were at the Apex 2025, where he discussed Ripple's technology and the utilization of XRP as that of the plumbing of the digital asset blockchain space. Take a listen.
And I will keep reminding people, Ripple is completely committed to what we can do to make XRP the most trusted, the most useful, and the most liquid digital asset on the planet. We will always be committed to that.
This is huge news. This institutional behavior for XRP is only going to accelerate from here. As the Blackrock COO says, the next decade is going to be defined by who is bringing traditional capital markets into the digital world. And as you're about to listen to this interview here, I'll give you a little hint. It's not Bitcoin doing it, it's XRP. Listen closely.
What advice would you give to, sort of the rest of the financial universe that are thinking about getting into this space now?
It's a great question. I think from our lens, it's what I'm going to say is going to be very simple. Executing it is extremely hard. So I recognize that. But to us, it's very basic. You basically have a new set of exposures. Mm-hmm. The real utility in Unlock is to be able to put them in the whole portfolio. And interestingly enough, I think you could turn the telescope around also and say, ultimately, how do you put these capital markets exposures in digital wallets? And how do you go? So if you think about the bridge strategy of this alternate digital asset universe and bringing it to the capital markets, I think it's naive to assume, and this doesn't have to be in a month, but if you look out over time, it's naive to assume that you don't also have to think through how do you bring the traditional capital markets to this alternative universe? And I think both connection points will define the next decade.
I couldn't agree more. And the best example of it, by the way, was the ETFs. So we got all thrown a curveball in the last minute. There were no in-kind creates. And so we were forced to try and figure out how to make old world meet new world, right? And so hopefully in the next version thereof, we're going to have more of a synthesis of those two things. So yeah, you're spot on. I agree with that.
So once more, yes, this institutional behavior, it is only going to accelerate, and this will result in a huge supply shock for XRP. Demand rising, with supply becoming more scarce or scarcer, the price will rally. Former CFTC chair Christian Carlo explains it best here. We are transitioning from the crypto casino phase where memes were superior for making capital gains, and of course they're still great, but we're going from that of casino to hype to that of utility driven. The end of the era for casino is coming into a maturing market with institutional adoption, crypto turning into a new and improved financial system, replacing Swift and becoming a much bigger asset class. Take a listen.
And that is the recognition that actually Bitcoin may be ending its early immature phase, what some people call derisively as the casino phase, into a new phase of maturity and mainstream adoption. And the reason for that is, under Biden administration policies, traditional financial players have been kept out of the space. They've been warned to stay out of the space because of the debanking of traditional firms and because of the SEC's warning lawyers and others not to get involved in crypto. And we've seen that now through FOIA requests that have been forward that the FDIC actually warned banks to stay out. All of that is going to be taken away. Trump is going to allow traditional finance to move into the digital asset space. And I think we're going to now see the institutional development of this asset class. Major American financial houses, whether it be the New York Stock Exchange and its owner, ICE, NASDAQ, others, as well as major Wall Street firms, are going to move in a big way. And I think that's going to bring us a real maturization of digital assets. And I think the value proposition now is going to increase dramatically. And I think early investors are seeing that.
Buckle up, because in my belief, honestly, again, not financial advice, but as Ripple CTO David Schwartz stated as well, XRP just cannot remain dirt cheap, and soon we're going to see massive banks, more and more, one by one, and then suddenly all of them scoop up some XRP. There'll be none left in the market for us. So, what's still available? That's why I'm scooping up more myself. Do your own research, of course, or better still, come learn more here in the VIP, and as always, don't look short term, think long term, and I'll see you in the next one.